Okay, this week we will be looking at the importance of goods and services design. As you read last week, every business, based on their operation strategy, will decide upon what their focus is going to be and how they can gain that competitive advantage. The only way to do that is to understand the wants, what the customer wants and needs, and then they focus on which competitive priorities they feel will best meet those wants and needs. Remember, those competitive priorities are cost, quality, time, flexibility, and/or innovation. And these are all things that you're going to be looking at next semester in Capstone when you are writing your business plan for your particular business. The bottom line, when a company is designing a product or service, they want to create it so it has value. Once again, that word value for the consumer. This is a 6-step process, and we will walk through these in the following slides. Perhaps the most important strategic decision that any firm makes involves the design and development of new goods and services and the value chain structure and processes that make and deliver them. I used to work at 3M, and I've mentioned that before, but bottom line, one of their strategies is to be very innovative, meaning that they want to have 30% of their profit coming from new products every year. So they put a high emphasis on the design of new products. So in front of you, you see the exhibit from 6.1 in your textbook, which if you want to follow along with that, it's on page 102. And this is the integrated framework for goods and services design. And at this slide, we see that the first 4 steps for each, for a good or for a service, are exactly the same. Step 1 is to look at the strategic mission, vision, and make sure that everything's aligning up with that, kind of like the strategies that we talked about last week. So that's the same for goods and services. The next step is the strategic and market analysis, understanding their competitive priorities. So that goes back to the previous chapter where we talked about cost, quality, time, flexibility, or innovation. Then you look at the customer benefit package and design and configuration. And as a team, you worked on this last week for your particular organization that you chose, and hopefully that helped you understand a little bit more the importance of designing it for the customer and making sure that you have not only winners but also qualifiers, something that's going to be unique. And then step 4 is the detailed goods, services, and process designs. So if the proposal of this new product goes through the first 3 steps, then the design of the manufactured good focuses on its physical characteristics, dimensions, and materials, and the service focuses on the customer benefit package. The process by which the service is created and delivered, that is produced, is in essence the service itself. Meaning that if you are going to do something different, you would have to look at it from what are you going to do with that service versus a product is, once again, that physical good. So every design project, whether it's a new automobile or a cell phone, new online or financial services, and maybe even a new pizza that you're going to be producing, is a series of trade-offs between technology and functionality, between ambition and affordability, and between the desires of the people creating the object and the needs of the people using it. And so here we continue on with Exhibit 6.1. And this is where we start looking at differences between a product, which is on your left-hand side here, and services, which would be on your right-hand side right here. So these in the blue are the services, those in the orange over here are the products. So those are where the differences occur when you're going through this framework to design a new product or service. Step 5 right here talks about market, innovation, introduction, and deployment. And this step is relatively important for all of them because you don't want to put a product into a market if you haven't really taken it out there to see whether or not it's going to work. And a lot of times, I don't know if you remember this, but like when Coke came out with their new Coke cans last year, they didn't put those white cans in every single market right away. They tried them in a few select markets, and then when they got positive or negative feedback, then they decided whether they were going to continue on and take it into an even bigger marketplace. And of course, the final step is the marketplace evaluation. And as your textbook indicated, this is a graveyard of missed opportunities in poorly designed goods and services. This final step in designing and delivering a customer benefit package is to constantly evaluate how well the goods and services are selling and what customers' reactions are to them. And you can never stop doing this because things change so quickly. We skipped over chapter 5, which was about technology, but that's definitely a good example of that as well. So designing goods and services, basically this customer benefit package design and configuration choices revolve around a solid understanding of the customer needs and target markets. This is so important for you going into next semester and also for any place that you work. Because you want to understand their needs in the target markets, and then you also want to understand the value that the customer places on certain attributes. Now, attributes, if you look at them, some could be like time, so reduce the waiting time, be more responsive to the customer needs. Place, select a location for the customer that's going to be convenient. We're going to talk about location a little bit more in a few weeks down. Information, how much product support and user manuals will you be able to provide? Entertainment, enhancing the customer experience. And we talked about biztainment in the first chapter, and basically that's what they're talking about. Customers want to be entertained. Exchange, multiple channels used for purchases. So you can, like they used Best Buy where you could go to the store, you could order it online, or, a variety of ways you could purchase it. And then form, how well the physical characteristics of a good addresses the customer needs. So the design of a manufactured good versus the services on the previous slide focuses on the physical characteristics, the dimensions, materials, color, and so on. The design of a service cannot be done independently from the process by which the service is delivered. The process by which the service is created and delivered, that is produced, is in essence the service itself. So basically what that means is the service is your product, and so that's how you design it. There is a lot of prototype testing that goes on, and this is a process which a model, real or simulated, is constructed to test the goods' physical properties or use under actual operating conditions, as well as consumer reactions to the prototype. And the book gives you some really good examples on that. So the customer-focused design, the customer requirements as expressed in the customer's own terms are called the voice of the customer, which makes sense if you think about it. And a tool that's used to determine this is called the quality function deployment. And it's an approach to guide the design, creation, and marketing of goods and services by integrating the voice of the customer into all decisions. We're not going to create this QFD or quality function deployment feature, House of Quality, as they show you on page 106. But the important thing to remember with this is that just because the customer wants it doesn't always mean that that an organization will be able to create that because of the technical designs or different things like that. But they try to look at that before they actually put something out, so that they don't get so an organization doesn't get themselves caught into a situation where they're not able to produce the product, or they overpromise and cannot deliver it to it. But when you look at the matrix on the right-hand side, just remember that they look at and if you wanted to go into page 106 in your textbook, that it shows you the House of Quality, and up at the top it gives you an example of building a better pizza, and that probably gives you as good of an explanation as anything. So then we would move on and we would look at manufactured goods in the design, and some of them are designed for reliability. And just like it says, reliability is the probability that a manufactured good, piece of equipment, or system performs as its intended function for a stated period of time under specified operating conditions. And so there are different tools to look at that. They talk about the tolerance design and the Taguchi loss function. So I would recommend that you just familiarize yourself with that. We aren't going to really delve into those problems. This would be more in depth if you're actually going into operations or something like this. But definitely take a look at it, because there are several different tools and techniques used to look at reliability for products. And so just to go over, reliability means that the product or the piece will do what it's intended to do over and over and over again. So think about a car. That would probably be the best example. Nowadays you can get way over 100,000 miles on it, and you know that the engine is going to work, or the starter is going to work every time that you start the car. So the other areas that they go into when you're talking about goods are the design for manufacturability. And basically that's the process of designing a product for efficient production at the highest quality level. Once again, you could use the automobile industry as an example. And they have designed their product so that they can, like now, when you put a car together, everything's like on the side panels are pretty much one piece, where years ago it used to be simple pieces. But with the one piece, you can produce it much quicker, and you can guarantee that it is of the highest quality. The other thing to look at for manufacturability is product simplification. And this is the process of trying to simplify designs to reduce complexity and costs. And thus, that's going to improve your productivity. And remember, we talked about that last in Chapter 3, quality, flexibility, and customer satisfaction, which the last three are all definitely something that you would be looking at for competitive advantage. So the example that the book gave you was the redesign of the Cadillac Seville rear bumper assembly reduced the number of parts by half and cut the assembly time by 57% to less than 8 minutes. This saved the company over $450,000 annually just in labor costs. And then they also eliminated quite a few parts, so you didn't have as much squeakiness and things like that. So that actually also helped with customer satisfaction. So hopefully that's a good example for you. So then we look at service delivery design systems, and basically you want to look at the facility location and layout, the servicescape, the process and job design, technology and information support systems, and organizational structure. A good example of the servicescape was used in the textbook. We have talked about the importance of facility location and layout. When you start working on your Benihana simulation, one of the things that you're going to be looking at is the layout within that store. So that just kind of pay attention to that. Remember that location creates customers' convenience. So, and also that a great store layout, process design, and service encounter design are meaningless if the store is in the wrong location. And like I said, we're going to get into location later on, but that's huge. And you will have an assignment where you find good and bad locations. Also, the internet is making physical locations less important for some information-intensive services such as Charles Schwab, Vanguard, and Scotts Trade. And if you remember in class, I think for all of the classes I gave the examples of Charles Schwab, and my son banks with them, and he does not have to be tied to a city or a location to use their services because everything's online, and he can even deposit actual physical checks with his phone by taking a picture of it. So the internet is definitely changing things. Now, Servicescape is a huge term that I hadn't heard until this book, but it really makes sense. And basically what it is, it's all the physical evidence that a customer might use to form an impression. So when you walk into a business, this gives you the impression of what it is. It provides the behavioral setting where service encounters take place and the standardization of the servicescape and service processes enhances the efficiency, especially for multiple site organizations. And the textbook gave you the example of McDonald's and the 3 different types of conditions. So as the textbook walked through the McDonald's example with the 3 different dimensions, the ambient, the spatial layout and functionality, and the signs, symbols, and artifacts. And if you want to look at that, go to page 113 in your textbook, and that's going to give you some really good examples. But it makes sense when you think about it, and I'd highly encourage the next time you walk into a McDonald's, or make a point to go to McDonald's and walk in there and look at their servicescape and how that helps to establish its own brand image. Now here there are some types of servicescapes, termed as lean servicescape environments. They're very simple. Ticketron outlets, FedEx drop-off kiosk, and then there's more complicated designs and service systems that are termed elaborate servicescape environments. And those would be your hospitals, airports, and universities. And I would also encourage you to think about Western and the Welcome Center. What type of a servicescape are they trying to give you? So, walk by there, walk in there, or do something like that, and think about that as well. So then we look at the service encounter design. And when you look at that, there are some different things that you look at. One of them is the amount of customer contact. When you talk about customer contact, basically what you're talking about is the number of time or the amount of customer interaction that you have. So in a high contact situation, that would imply that you have a lot of contact. In a low contact, obviously you have low. And examples that they gave you as a high contact system would be estate planning and hotel check-in. And low contact might be construction services or packaging and distribution. So one reason for this variation and uncertainty that people introduce into high contact, you have a lot more opportunities for mistakes to be made. So for class next week, what I want you to do is go to your textbook and go to page 117. And what I want you to do is look at the integrative case study for LensCrafter. And that's going to walk you through a case study to illustrate how goods and services are designed in an integrated fashion, so that basically you have a product and you also have a service. And this is probably where you're going to see this more times than not. But that's where it's important to understand that the product is not the most important, okay, nor is the service, but you have to integrate them together, and by doing that, then you have a pretty strong relationship. So we'll be working on that in class next week to kind of walk everybody through, but I'd highly recommend that you reread that and look at it. And then we're going to be introducing the simulation, which is also going to give you a more in-depth view of how important the good and the service are. So have a great week.